Hello YouTube, it is me again and I'm back. So I'm going to talk about the CW and them canceling all their shows. So you may be looking at this title thinking like, Raina, what do you mean by karma? Well, let me give you a brief history on this network. So back in the day from the mid-90s to early 2000s, there were two networks that WB kind of owned. It was WB, the channel, and then UPN. Now, I want to focus more on UPN than WB. Now, UPN was a network that was geared towards a black audience. It had predominantly black programming. It had a lot of comedies. It was mainly just comedies on there, and it was great programming. I remember watching that when I was younger. Now, when we get to the mid-2000s, this is where things get tricky. Now, WB also had some black programming on there too, but they mainly had, white TV shows geared towards a white audience. And so when we get to the mid-2000s, WB decides to basically kind of either mesh these two networks together and create the CW. And what this did was cancel a lot of shows from both networks. But most importantly, it canceled a lot of shows from the UPN that was predominantly targeted to a black audience. And now, I'm not sure if there was a documentary about this or whatever, but if you look at certain actors and writers of that time, they always talk about how that was a rough time, horrible time, and that, they still feel scars from that till this day. So now we're here where once again, WB has been taken over by Discovery. Months ago, last year, it was released that the CW was going to be sold to a company called Nexstar. They're going to sell off the CW. There has been no official word on if it's going to, either change the network or whatever's going to happen. It is still kind of in the early stages, which is why you saw a lot of cancellations yesterday. And I'm going to put a link in the description so you can get a better understanding of what's really going on here. My whole opinion on this is, this is history repeating itself. And when I'm saying this, I'm not saying this with, malice or hatred towards the current writers or directors or actors or crew members who worked on these shows. Trust me, a lot of the shows that were canceled are shows that I really enjoyed, especially Batwoman and Legends of Tomorrow. I love those shows, and those hurt being canceled. And some other shows I did watch that were canceled by the CW, also. And also, a lot of fans were upset. So I'm not, putting this on those people who lost their jobs today. Because these are just regular, everyday people who got these jobs and all of a sudden they were fired. And I bet there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of anger and seething, rage. I understand. Because this is a big, suits, big, larger brass thing that happened yesterday. It's a big company makeover. And it really gets the cynicism in you when you think about Hollywood and how they just, how they work, basically. So, allegedly in one of the articles, they discussed that the CW may be going to Middle America. I'm like, but you already did that when the network started, 2 decades ago. And then you had to adjust to the times because you were being called out, by barely having any people of color and LGBTQ people in your shows. And they were getting into it, last decade, and now it's almost all gone. I mean, you still have the All-American series, you got Kung Fu, you got Tom Swift, but, those latter two, are they really going to stay on? It's really tricky there on what they really want from this network. But it's really showing the times. I mean, the CW was never a big juggernaut network like that. Where it comes to the main four, Fox, NBC, CBS, and ABC. The reason why they're able to stay on even now in this tough TV climate where streaming is kind of king and viewership has gone down by a landslide, those networks can survive because they've always had a built-in audience for decades. They've been around forever. Like I said, the CW only formed in the mid 2000s, so they're still kind of new to build up their audience, and they got it kind of fast with Gossip Girl, the Vampire Diaries, and the superhero stuff. But now, with streaming services and all the stuff coming in, their viewership, you can tell the viewership got cut, just horrendously, and they could barely survive. And I think that's what these people are looking at. Now, like I said, Discovery is coming in, all these big changes are happening, but it does not, excuse like the hurt that we all feel of, losing these shows, and of course people losing their jobs, and everything, of not getting to, finish their stories like the way they wanted to. But like I said, back in the day when they slashed all those shows that meant so much to the Black community, they were actively trying to really predominantly, show us and really represent us. And now it's happening again. And, they may feel a certain type of way, but this is how we felt. And it really showcases how the industry is really anti-Black and homophobic at the same time, and misogynistic too, to be quite honest, of, how they treat our identities as, we're just things and not actual, living, breathing human beings. So that is my opinion on this whole entire thing. Like I said, I do feel sorry for the writers and directors and crew members and actors and whomever. But like I said, when it comes to, this changing regime, it can happen at any time. And it really showcases how history does repeat itself. So what are your thoughts on this, YouTube? Leave your comments down below, and bye, YouTube.